The rain has been falling for hours, the rhythmic drumming against the roof, a sound I'd come to love. There was something comforting about it, something that made the world feel smaller, more intimate. But tonight, the rain felt different. It felt heavier, charged, almost like it was pulling me toward it, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. My parents. They wouldn't understand, not the way I did. They were always so caught up in their world, work, responsibilities, everything else. They didn't know what it was like to feel this connection, this pull to the water. I didn't tell anyone about it, not even them. They would have thought I was crazy. Earlier that week, I had come close to telling someone, Jay. We'd been sitting under the old tree behind the school, watching the rain roll in. He always said the weather made me look like I was made of stormlight.
I swear you get weirder when it rains.
I almost told him then, about the pull I felt every time the sky turned gray, about the way the river seemed to speak, but I stopped myself. How do you know if something's real? Like, if it's calling to you, but you're the only one who hears it? He looked at me thoughtful for once.
I think if it feels real to you, then it is, even if no one else sees it.
I'd nodded, storing his answer away like a secret I wasn't ready to unlock. But the truth was, I wasn't like other kids. I wasn't like them. The river called to me, and I had to answer. It always had. I pulled on my jacket, slipping quietly out of the street. Everywhere was silent. The only sound, the soft pattering of the rain. I walked through the streets of Brookhaven, past the small cottages, their windows glowing faintly in the storm. The air smelled of earth and rain, and with every step, the call of the river grew louder, louder until it consumed my every thought. I didn't know why I always went there. I wasn't drawn to the river the way some people were to lakes or oceans. It wasn't just the beauty of the water. It was something deeper, something ancient, primal, something that made my heart ache when I wasn't near it. As I reached the riverbank, I felt the familiar pull, the water whispering to me, its current a quiet hum beneath the storm. The once calm, tranquil river had changed. The storm had made it more urgent, more alive, the water twisting and turning, rushing with power. I stood at the edge, watching as the water rose higher, swelled with the intensity of the rain. I stepped closer, my boots sinking into the soft mud, feeling the cool rush of the water against my legs. I didn't hesitate. I let the water take me, feeling it pull me in deeper. It started slowly at first, but as the water surged around my legs, I felt my body change. My legs began to feel different, unnatural, like they were melting into something else. My toes fused together, my skin became slick, and then I felt it. The unmistakable pull of the transformation. The change. I looked down, watching in disbelief as my feet began to merge, the delicate webbing growing between my toes, turning my feet into fins. I felt my legs extend, stretching into a long, sinuous tail. The water felt natural, as if it was where I was meant to be all along. I breathed, and the water didn't suffocate me. It didn't drown me. I could breathe it in, just as easily as I could breathe air. Panic rose in my chest, but it quickly faded, replaced by something calmer, something more ancient. This was me. This was who I was. I wasn't just a girl. I was something else. I was a mermaid, a child of the water, a creature of both the world above and the one beneath. And now, as I felt my body adapt to this new reality, I knew there was no going back. I stood there in the middle of the river, my heart pounding in my chest as the water swirled around me. I knew I had to go back. My parents would be worried, frantic even, but how could I explain this to them? How could I tell them that the daughter they had raised was no longer just a girl, That I was something more? How could I say that I had always been something more? I started walking back to the shore, my new tail making it difficult to move through the shallow water. But I didn't care. I had to get home. I had to see them. When I reached the edge, I felt the water pull at me, almost reluctant to let me go. But I broke free and stumbled back onto solid ground. The cold rain hit my skin, but it didn't feel the same. It was no longer refreshing. It was a reminder that I was different, that I had changed. I ran back to the house, my heart racing as I burst through the door, my mind still reeling from what had just happened. My mom was there, just as I knew they would be, standing in the hallway with worried faces.
Mara, where have you been? It's dangerous out there. The flood.
I tried to hide the strange newness I felt, the unsettling weight of what had just occurred. I'm sorry. I was by the river. I didn't mean to worry you.
Your clothes. Why are you soaked?
I didn't know how to answer. I couldn't explain it. How could I tell her that the water had called me, that I had become something else entirely?
You're cold. Come on, let's get you dry.
I wasn't the same girl who had left the house, and I wasn't sure I could ever be her again. The floodwaters had been rising quickly outside, creeping up the street, and my father's voice snapped me back to the present.
Mara, get inside. We need to leave. The storm. It's getting worse.
I nodded, but my legs felt heavy. I couldn't explain to them what was happening. I wasn't ready for that. But I couldn't stay here either. I had to go back. Stay here! I need to go back to the river! Before they could protest, I turned and ran outside, the rain lashing against me. My mother's voice, frantic now, echoed behind me, but I couldn't stop. The river was waiting, and I was being pulled toward it. The floodwaters were nearly to my waist by the time I reached the river again, the current stronger than ever, but it felt like home. The transformation came over me again, stronger this time, and I could feel the shift as my legs fused together into the long tail of a mermaid. The rush of the water was comforting, almost familiar. It was as if I had been born for this life beneath the surface. I could hear my parents calling after me, but I didn't turn around. This was my place. The river was where I belonged. When I reached the deep water, I dove in, my body moving through the current with ease. I felt free in a way I'd never known before. No more restrictions, no more pretending. For the first time, I felt whole, but behind me I could hear my parents' voices, full of fear, of confusion.
Mara, what is this? What are you?
I didn't stop, but the question echoed in my mind as I swam deeper into the river's embrace. When I surfaced hours later, the storm had passed and the water had calmed. The town of Brookhaven was covered in a blanket of water, but the flood had started to recede. I floated in the river, looking back at the town. I had known this place all my life, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Not the way the water did. I made my way back to the shore, where my parents waited. They were standing in silence, staring at me as I emerged from the river. I saw the shock in their eyes, but I also saw something else, something softer, more understanding. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want you to be afraid.
You're still our daughter, Mara. But this is something else. You're not just a girl. What are you?
I'm a part of the river. I've always been. I didn't understand it until tonight, but the river called to me, and I became this.
We don't understand, Mara, but we'll try. We'll try to understand.
Later that night, I overheard them talking in the kitchen.
She's not the same, James. That tail, the way she moved in the water, It wasn't human.
I know. But it's still Mara. She's still our girl.
What if she doesn't come back next time? What if the river takes her for good?
He didn't answer right away. I could hear the tremble in his breath.
She belongs to that water now, but she still came home tonight. That means something.
I'm scared, but we can't lose her. Not again. We have to.
The days that followed were strange, filled with a mixture of awe, fear, and uncertainty. My parents tried to come to terms with what I had become. They still loved me, but there was always that unspoken distance. I spent more time by the river, no longer afraid of what I was becoming. The water felt right. It was a part of me. But I still came back to visit my parents, to tell them about my world beneath the surface. It wasn't easy, but they listened. They didn't fully understand. But that was okay, because I finally understood myself. I was Mara, a girl of two worlds, and for the first time, I felt at peace. The river was calling, and I could answer. I could finally be whole. As the years passed, I found balance between my two worlds. The river was always there, calling to me, but so were my parents. I would never fully be human again, but they had come to accept that. They had come to accept me. The river would always be a part of me, but now I knew how to live with it. I wasn't afraid of who I was anymore. I was Mara, Mermaid, daughter, creature of the water, and I had finally found my place. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more inspiring stories and content.